Hello there guys, it's Joey and this is the witchy vlog for the week with the Witchling card Happiness. And just to recap on the card, although the full meanings are on the connecting video, is if you want to be happy, then happy you shall be. Finding what makes you happy on a sort of personal level and realising that overarching themes of what makes someone happy isn't necessarily going to make you happy on a personal level. Tending your own garden, being graceful about your own happiness, gloating and sort of holding things over people is not happiness, as well as the gracefulness of the dance, the fluidity of the dance of happiness as we flow through life and we embrace those moments of happiness within the overarching energy, within the overarching cycle. Okay, so before we even get started, I'm going to introduce my new babies for this week, or two of them. There are more than two because the partner decided to get some new babies and I've been asked to show some, so you ready? Right, let's pop them there. So these are two of the mini squidgeable foxes and they're going to be in shock because I think they're awesome. And the reason for me including these right at the start is the first point I want to make before I even start reading some of my thoughts for the week. So it's basically about the idea of your inner child and happiness. The overused critique that I have seen too many times is you're a child, you're being childish, that's not what adults do. The childlike joy of enjoying something and being happy about something is different to each individual. It's based on pure what makes you you as a child. Not everybody has nice memories, or a lot of nice memories from being a child. And if you go to a counsellor, I know that people who have been advised to actually just play childhood games, especially if they've missed on parts of their childhood. And basically the idea of embracing your own inner child to be happy, to be silly, to be stupid or whatever, but is basically breaking out of the mould that society says once you've reached a certain age you're not allowed to do this anymore. Well, sorry, but you don't get to tell people that that's childish or whatever. And to be honest, you're going to be miserable if all you do is think, oh well, adults only care about X. It's basically another lie told to us by society that we have to only be responsible adults and we have to only engage in certain forms of fun and social accepted forms of fun. And largely in this day and age it tends to be drinking, and of course that benefits people, people who sell the drink, government who tax the drink, things like that. And to be honest, if you are enjoying yourself and being happy and you can enjoy yourself on a almost childlike, innocent, joyful way without it being agenda pushed, then you should. And so the little foxes are there as a representation of that. There you go. You must first find yourself before you find your happiness. Anna Pereira? Yeah. So this kind of ties into the childhood thing, but it's also about understanding yourself. It's accepting yourself for who you are and the things that make you happy and why. And I kind of went on and on about this in the musing video, so I'm not going to go like into too much depth, but it's basically finding a positive balance of things that make you happy and why, and it not just being a short-term high like we talked in that video, but rather something that you can sustain. Peanut wood was important at the beginning of the week. I've actually put it away, that's a shame. Petrified wood that was swept into the ocean. Grounding, stabilising, protection, business, strengthening, supporting, insight. Insight into cause and effect longevity, past life regression, and healing. And I think personally the insight into cause and effect has been very important this week on a number of levels. Cause and effect of what makes you happy or not. Identifying triggers of what makes you happy or not. And that's sort of understanding yourself, removing yourself from situations which constantly bring up stress, and you quite often get confronted with things that really upset you or stress you out over and over and over again until you learn the lesson that you actually need to learn. And unfortunately, like, these cycles can become kind of deadlock, and there's been a lot of this in the broader societal terms of things this week as well. And unfortunately, there are going to be people who are going to identify what upsets you and go after it. And that says a whole heap about them more than anybody else. I mean, that's a true something lacking in them. A real lack of happiness that they have to go after what they know is going to upset someone. That says volumes about the people doing it. People take different roads seeking fulfillment and happiness. Just because they're not on your road does not mean they are lost. The Dalai Lama. Wow, is this message true this week? I said yesterday about many paths up the mountain, and I fully endorse that. Spirituality is an individual path, no matter what you say, no matter what group you're part of, no matter what religion you're part of, no matter what spirituality you are part of. It's an individual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, and the human experience is yours. And to be honest, you cannot offer judgment on anybody else's spirituality, because it's not your place. It's not your place. It's for the divine to decide. And if something is really hurting you about somebody's spiritual practice, you need to go and look at yourself. You need to go and do what we've been talking about. First, find yourself and understand why that person's spiritual practice is bothering you, because that's your reaction to something outside of yourself. And fear is a huge one. Hatred, for whatever reason, and prejudice can tie in together. That's another one. And yeah, so I mean, there is a difference between people performing acts which offend you or upset you or hurt you, and that's more understandable, but certain acts of things that may or may not upset you versus whole spiritual paths. And their road is their road, and if you don't want anything to do with it, you don't have to engage with it. And I know this can be difficult when it's more about people doing acts to upset other people. I understand that. But spiritual paths, just being offended by somebody's spiritual belief, blows my head off. It's just madness. I received a beautiful parcel first thing this week, including many things which are personal, but there's a bloodstone and peacock feathers. Actually, bloodstone has been on the Morrigan altar all week, and I believe is going to be important next week. I haven't drawn the card yet, but we'll look at it. And peacock feathers. Peacock feathers have been nearly everywhere this week, and the end of last week I nearly got some the other day, decided kind of against it. There's a Morrigan-esque queen picture with peacocks in the headdress. So we did a whole video on peacocks and peacock feathers and the evil eye. I mean, today they're associated with mystery, romance and illusion, and they used to be feared as a symbol of the evil eye, which we talked about at length. I did think it was particularly poignant in pointing out that obviously peacock feathers are sacred to Hera, and the legend with Argos, that's all on the peacock feather video. And the fact that she'd been really important as a harvest goddess and mother goddess prior to the Greek civilization and their sort of incorporation of past deities into their new pantheons, and it became more of a patriarchal pantheon. and therefore she sort of got belittled a bit. And I think that's really important, the way that we interact, we take things and then we put a judgment on them. Peacock feathers is one of those things that became associated with bad luck, and the symbol of the eye became, and still is, given many negative associations, even in modern day society, with the Illuminati focusing on the eye. And a lot of it is Egyptian hieroglyph for eye of Ra. And I really don't have a problem with peacock feathers or eye symbols. I find eye symbols beautiful, I find them mystical, I find them very spiritual, because each of us has something in our eyes. The spark of life is within our eyes. There's true beauty in them, and they don't age particularly. You can damage them and you can discolour them through different things, but generally speaking, they're ageless. You know, you can still see the spark of life in eyes, and I love that. Herbs to guard against the evil eye. Rue. Rue is one of my favourites. Rue has been one of my favourites for a long, long time. I fully encourage anybody who is starting out in herbcraft to engage with rue. It's just incredible. It's got a beautiful protective energy. It returns to sender like nobody's business. And obviously, it was funny because hanging elder over your door. And what did I find 2 days later? Yeah. Gemstones against the evil eye. Some really good ones are tiger's eye, carnelian, quartz, cat's eye, agate, etc. And then there's all the history of the evil eye, which we've already talked about in that video. But it's interesting how it goes across cultures, and there are different countries' reactions to the evil eye, and it's something which has been identified in different cultures and different ways of dealing with it. All these sorts of herbs and crystals and things being brought into amulets and charms, and then there is the bracelets and necklaces and things of that nature. So what has that got to do with happiness? Well, I guess evil eye, the envy, jealousy and the hatred that comes of it is exactly the opposite of your own happiness. You are coveting what somebody else has done, has created, yada yada yada, and basically you are comparing yourself to whomever and saying in your own head, even if you don't realise it, that you are less than that person, so you are jealous of that person, and you're doing that to yourself. And it's something which is rife. It is rife in our modern society. The idea of keeping up with the Joneses, that sort of nonsense, that you have to engage with certain kinds of magic, certain paths, certain goddesses, certain gods. You have to do a certain thing, certain way, because so-and-so does it, is rife, and it is basically the antithesis of personal happiness. Turritella agate was important this week. Has an inner stability, composure, protective and spiritual growth. I had a very, very strong, more than one, but I had a very, very strong Morrigan message, which I'm not going to share here. That one's personally for me. I did share the other one and I've left it in the other room, so I'm going to go grab it. Apologies, there we go. Right, so I wrote this down, and actually I wrote two down, and I'll read both of those. Those are fine because I shared them. Okay. Old world witchery, right to the heart. Hear it screaming, know it starts. Morrigan Crow and Wraith and Bone, hear me now, I am your own. Old word witchery, burn and burn, to the faithful that do not learn. Morrigan Crow and Wraith and Bone, hear me now, I am your own. And the second one is for Brigid. Brigid, sister wise and true, I call now upon you. Let your row and arrows fly to those who dishonour and deny. Brigid, sister wise and true, I call now upon you. Let justice rage on the fire, put ill will to the pyre. And I do work with Brigitte on a secondary level. I've discussed the first time she arrived. I felt okay about that. And I work with her with Morrigan's blessing, and sometimes when a situation requires all angles, as my friend puts it, I work with both of them on a subject. When something needs to be cleaned out, to be cleansed out, to be shoved off and got rid of, then I work with both, because they've got every angle covered. A quote from Socrates: "I decided that it was not wisdom that enabled poets to write their poetry, but a kind of instinct or inspiration, such as you find in seers and prophets who deliver all their sublime messages without knowing in the least what they mean," which kind of spoke to me this week. I've had so many poems come through me and that sort of thing. She was unstoppable, not because she did not have failures or doubts, because she continued on without them, unknown. That's a key thing. You know, we all have failures, we all fail, and we all have doubts. We all doubt ourselves and our position in the world and what we're doing, be it on mundane level and, you know, whatever. We all have personal doubts, and it's okay to do that. It's okay to doubt yourself. It's okay to fail. I think the problem is how we actually react to our own personal failings or failures or doubts. Now, we have a choice. We do have a choice. And the choice for us is we either start blaming other people and getting nasty and being passive aggressive and snide and argumentative and sort of taking it out on other people, or we reassess ourselves for who we want to be, why we think we failed, why we feel we failed, why we have these doubts, regroup, recalibrate, and get on with it. So I also found elder and pyrite chips. So there's the pyrite chips. Yeah, and pyrite is about, although I talked about that in the nature-y video, personal positive energy this week is what it's about. It's been about pushing through and finding your positive bursts of energy to get you through. And then elder is about life, death and rebirth. It's the goddess tree. So many people take issue with it, but I love the elder tree. I think it's synonymous with every goddess, but my goddess especially. All the cycles. And cycles ties back to, of course, the fact that we have to embrace the fact that we're living our life and happiness is moments within it. Walk between worlds of shadows and light, the wise woman travels in spirit flight. O ye witches of old, beyond the hedge, pierce the veil and walk the edge, with herbs and potions that comfort and heal, come together and turn the wheel. Author unknown. The only keeper of your happiness is you. Stop giving people power to control your smile, your worth, and your attitude. Mandy Hale. So, this is something I struggle with, and I think a lot of people struggle with it, is the fact of how people influence your personal happiness. We're kind of encouraged as we're growing up, or even everywhere, to think that our personal happiness is usually connected to someone other than us. And the idea that we're going to find our one true love and everything's going to be happy and everything's going to be perfect and you're going to be complete is one of them. And it's obviously bull, and we talked about that in the love video, that obviously happiness can be found with love of all forms, but it's never fixed. It's never a quick fix. It's never done. It's never sorted. It's never boom and you're happy and that's it. Because life is balanced, life is up and downs, and the experiences that we all go through, the cycles, you know. And there are people who purposefully try and take our happiness away from us. Yeah. I don't even know how to address people that want to do that, because it's... You kind of sit there and you're wondering if there's levels of it. If there's some of it which is just full on don't want you to be happy, or they full on want to take your place, or they full on want to trigger your anger or whatever, and they think that this is going to, I don't know, justify their existence or something. I have no idea. I don't really fully comprehend it. My anger tends to be reactional, and that's something that it takes very elevated things to really, really get me angry. And there are limited amounts of things that anger me that much, thankfully, because I'm a scary person when I'm angry, because it takes an effing lot to get me angry. My mother used to say I was like my father in this respect, which I was, you know, angry at her for saying. I mean, it's a horrible thing to say. But there's a level of learning in that as well. There's a level of allowing things to flow around you rather than through you. And this is something that I have been learning myself, helping my partner to learn. And it's an ongoing process, and it's basically allowing things to flow past you and not through you, because people are aiming quite frequently to stab through you, to hurt you, to upset you, to anger you for whatever reason of their own. And to be honest, maybe it's best not to really understand where that is coming from, because I don't want to take that into me. To be fair, I don't want that anywhere in my aura or anything. And at least when I do get upset and angry about these things, I have something in place whereby I have people I can talk to who will chill me out a bit, and then I can start being level-headed again. And that doesn't happen very often at all. This week has been difficult for a lot of people, and I'm one of them. There have been difficulties this week. This card, I think, does both, you know. It challenges you, and a lot of the time these witchlings challenge your happiness, and what really does not make you happy comes to light, and you have to realise how you're going to deal with that best. Look at how she walks the earth like she has a crown on her head and a sacred chalice of a womb, as if everywhere she walks the ground heals beneath her feet. And on a golden throne she takes her seat. It's like she knows that she's divine. She helps me remember that the magic is mine. Do it, girl. I think that's leading into next week a bit as well. We'll find out when we draw the card after I have uploaded this video. Oh, and yesterday I found the most incredible gift from nature on the ground. This is honeysuckle bark. It had fallen and dried from the honeysuckle outside, and it's in the shape of the eternity symbol. Is how it fell. Can you see that? The sort of on its side 8 symbol. There you go, foxes. Okay. Helps guide you with what is real and what is false. Helps you tread safely, remaining true to yourself and your beliefs, and ignoring the distractions, ignoring the negative. It's also known as the flower or herb, or however you want to sort of see it, of embrace. Embracing who you are, embracing your life, your destiny, embracing your higher self, bringing that to fruition. So the fact I found this yesterday on the very last day in the eternity symbol is sort of, for me, the crux of what happened this week. It's like, embrace who you are in the eternal cycle of life. Life, death and rebirth and beyond. And for me that has been, this week it has been, remember who you are. Remember what makes you happy. Be true to yourself. And even when these things arise, these things that make you unhappy, and you know you can deal with them, you're gonna be alright, you're gonna get through it. And sometimes I think we all need to hear that, even if it's from ourselves, because sometimes we need to be our own best friend to get ourselves through the most difficult situations in life. You know, you can. You can. You will. You must. Many blessings.